All right, let's jump right in. What in the world does the world of accounting, hard numbers, strict rules, have to do with Apple's biggest tech revolution in years? Well, the answer is actually pretty deep, and it all kicks off with this simple, kind of radical idea about what value really means.
So let me introduce you to Dr. Shay Tsaban. He's the mind behind our source material today. Now get this, he's an accountant, but he also holds a doctorate in the economics of happiness. It just sounds like a total contradiction, right? And that's the whole point. It's that kind of paradox that really makes you see things in a whole new light.
And this really gets at a core tension we all kind of feel. On one side, you've got the world of cold, hard data, profit margins, processor speeds, all that stuff. And on the other, you have these warm, human feelings, like well-being and just happiness. We're usually taught these two things are in conflict. But what if one could actually fuel the other? Just hold on to that thought.
Because that question brings us straight to Apple's M1 chip. I mean, sure, on the surface it's a piece of hardware. But the real story here, the thing that makes it so important, isn't about the technical specs. It's about a massive shift in philosophy, a move away from just chasing raw power to valuing the experience of actually using the thing.
So, what was this huge shift? Well, for decades, computers were basically built like a box of Legos. You'd have your main brain, the CPU, from a company like Intel, then your graphics card, the GPU, from someone like NVIDIA, and your memory from yet another company. They were all separate pieces. Apple's new way? They just threw that whole playbook out the window. They decided to put everything, all the main guts of the computer, together on one single unified chip.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The why. Why did they do it? This huge revolution in computers didn't actually start with computers. Nope, it started with the phone that's probably in your pocket right now. To really get the M1, you have to first understand the business of the iPhone.
The iPhone is Apple's absolute cash cow. We're talking oceans of money. And that incredible profitability gave Apple not just a reason, but the actual billions and billions of dollars they needed to pour into designing their very own custom chips, year after year, just for their phones. And that decade plus of investment, it paid off big time. As Apple kept dumping billions into its mobile chips all through the 2010s, something crazy started to happen. Their phone chips got so powerful, they started blowing past the laptop chips that were in their own MacBooks. That's the moment Apple knew they had a secret weapon on their hands.
So what is this all-in-one tech they spent all that time perfecting for the iPhone before bringing it over to the Mac? Well, it's called a System on a Chip, or SoC for short. And honestly, it is the key to this entire story.
A system on a chip is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It takes all the most important parts of a computer and fuses them together right onto one single piece of silicon. The source material has a great analogy. It's like a sandwich cookie. All the layers are baked in and stuck together. You can't just pull out the creamy filling. It's one complete package.
Okay, so what are the main ingredients baked into this all-in-one chip? There are really four big ones you got to know about. First, you've got the CPU. That's the main brain. Then the GPU, which handles all the graphics. You've got the RAM, which is the computer's short-term memory. And then there's this specialized piece for AI stuff called the neural engine.
And even that main brain, the CPU, is super smart about how it works. It has 8 cores, but they're not all the same. They're split. You get 4 high-efficiency cores for everyday tasks like browsing the web, and 4 high-performance cores that kick in for the really heavy stuff. It's kind of like having a super fuel-efficient car for your daily commute and a race car all in the same engine, and the computer just knows exactly when to switch between them.
So this all-in-one way of doing things sounds amazing, right? But like with any big change in technology, there's always a trade-off. There are some absolutely incredible benefits, but there are also some pretty major downsides that you really have to know about.
And here you can see that trade-off laid out plain and simple. By putting everything together, you get that radical efficiency we were talking about. And that means insane battery life and a computer that runs silent. But on the flip side, you give up all flexibility. You're locked into Apple's world, and most importantly, you can never, ever upgrade the parts inside.
Look, if you remember just one thing from all this, let it be this. The single biggest win for the M1 chip isn't just raw speed, it's efficiency. That was the game changer. That was the whole reason Apple was willing to take this massive risk.
And efficiency isn't just some boring tech word. It translates into things you actually feel. It means your laptop battery might actually last all day. It means your computer doesn't get scorching hot on your lap. And it means no more of that loud fan noise kicking on, sounding like a jet engine is taking off just because you opened a few too many tabs. It's about a better, quieter, just a more pleasant experience.
All right, now for the other side of that coin. The biggest downside is just as big a deal. Because every single component is fused together on that one chip, you cannot upgrade anything after you buy it. Not the hard drive, not the memory, zilch, nothing.
The source uses this absolutely perfect Hebrew phrase to describe this whole situation, nagata nasata. It basically means you touched it, you're committed. Once you've made your purchase, that's it, you're done. The hardware you bought is the hardware you're going to have forever. It really means you have to choose very, very wisely right at the start.
And this brings us right back to where we started. We kicked this off with an accountant who studies happiness, and we just did a deep dive into computer chips. So how do these two worlds possibly connect? Well, it all comes down to how we define what better actually means.
Let's circle back to Dr. Tsaban's big idea. For decades, the tech world measured success with pure numbers, gigahertz, gigabytes, benchmark scores. But with the M1, Apple changed the scorecard. They started to prioritize human value, things like long battery life, silence, a machine that stays cool. They decided to measure success by the quality of the experience you have with it.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought. What if this is the model for how we should be looking at all technology? Instead of just asking, how fast is it or how powerful is it, what if we started asking, how does this actually make my life better? It seems like a simple question, but really thinking about it, that could change everything.